I'm not interested in the 29-year-old woman who had breast augmentation surgery with my 32-year-old male fiancé. Original post: my partner and 2.5-year fiancé underwent augmentation surgery, as the headline implies. Since we first started dating, she has always stated that she wants to take a chance. She had to live with her body, so I told her that I didn't think it was essential because I liked how she looked before, but I also promised to support her no matter what choice she chose. After a protracted struggle with illness that necessitated a double mastectomy, her mother passed away more than a year ago. However, thereafter, the cancer returned and extended to her pancreatic. For the entire family, it was a terrible and excruciating event. I wasn't present for her first struggle, but from what I've heard, it was incredibly horrible and depressing in and of itself. After the surgery and her mother's remission, my girlfriend and I became together. She received a respectable inheritance from her mother's estate, not a fortune, but sufficient to cover her desired surgery and a down payment on a home. When she informed me she had scheduled a consultation with a cosmetic surgeon, I was encouraging, but I also commented on how attractive she looked at the time and speculated that perhaps she was still in mourning for her mother's death and that's why she had chosen to see a plastic surgeon at this time. She basically brushed the idea aside, claiming that she had desired implants since high school, long before her mother was diagnosed with cancer or had a mastectomy. Alright, that makes sense now. About 6 months ago, the treatment was carried out, and everything went off without a hitch. I didn't really get to view the full effect right immediately because she was recovering for almost a month, and when I did, they were significantly larger than I had anticipated. She told me that even though the swelling was still present, it would eventually go down and appear more normal. They did reduce the edema, but they've never really looked natural, in my opinion. Perhaps it's because I was so used to how they looked before the surgery that I find it difficult to see them in a different light. Although we've had a little less time to ourselves lately, things have been okay up to this point. Since we were unable to do much during her recovery, as soon as she was healthy enough, we made far too many reservations for activities. This was before I realized what her sports bra and baggy t-shirt looked like. She would still be wearing them. And they hurt for a very long period, despite my extreme caution not to grasp at them or do anything else. She eventually healed fully, and while I wasn't overjoyed about it right away, I pretended to be happy and thought they were fantastic. The fact is, I have no personal grudges against them. I've never objected to it, but after the surgery, I stopped being interested in her because of the extra attention she received from strangers. She has drawn attention from outsiders in the past, and she is a beautiful woman now, but with the operation, she seems so much more approachable that it actually turns me off. When I initially didn't bring it up, I reasoned that maybe I'm simply paranoid, and even if I wasn't, people would think as much and ignore it. However, when she attempted to flirt back with the delivery guy or anything else, I started to say a few small things here and there. Above average, more along the lines of not sure he needs a tip after all or anything such. When I finally informed her how uncomfortable I was feeling, she became irritated and did exactly what I had expected her to do. She told me that my discomfort was unjustified and accused me of being too dramatic and paranoid. Later, I learned a few weeks ago that she had gone out with her girlfriends and been persuaded to compete in a wet t-shirt contest. My friend texted me to tell me how beautiful my girlfriend's babies looked while they were in the pub. All jokes aside, he admitted to me later that he had intentionally done it, even though he didn't feel comfortable sharing it in case I was unaware. She didn't understand why I was unhappy when I questioned her about it, which is just one more example of the complete transformation in her personality that she appeared to have experienced following the therapy. I tried to make it clear that, although the deception and her general indifference to my concerns and pleasure in the extra attention was hurtful, I probably would have been okay if she had told me that this was going on. She gave me the impression that I should just consider myself fortunate to have her and be glad that she won the wet t-shirt competition. I just can't get attached to this individual. This whole personality shift has been so awful that I no longer want to have sex with her, even though I didn't like how the process came out in the first place. I am aware that this might be going too far. We've only done it twice in the last 2 weeks, and both times I've had to turn her down. I tried my best to be understanding, but when I tell her that I'm not feeling it right now, she acts like a toddler and becomes really agitated and upset. She thinks that by wanting to do it with me at all, even though it's still very fresh, and I feel like I'm being unappreciative of her at the moment. I brought it up on Reddit because when I've tried to talk about it, several of my friends, both male and female, have imitated this way of thinking. Though I might be deluding myself, I think the person I fell in love with is still out there. I'm at the point where I want to recommend couples therapy, but the one time I mentioned it, she dismissed it with a giggle. I don't know if I like this new version of her, but I don't know what to do. She appears to be a whole different person. She told me that having her was a blessing and that she was only asking to spend the night with me as a kindness. The best advice to follow before reading the updates is this one. Please put an end to the noise. She is becoming more and more conceited, especially when she is getting attention from other people. These are stories I've read, and none of them end happily. My recommendation is to end the relationship. It's obvious that the two of you are no longer compatible, and you will soon grow resentful of one another. Put an end to it immediately to avoid it getting worse. This is true to the letter. She is no longer an equal police officer, which is a surefire way to end badly. It's really time for you to keep on. You two are incompatible at this time. It's unfortunate, but that's life. It's acceptable to dislike the person she has become because there is no way to change who she was in the past. Proceed now. You both need to go to counseling if you want to keep what you have, but it won't be possible without her help. If not, you should make your decision now since she has already made hers. You owe it to her to discuss things through before making a decision after 2.5 years of dating. Make sure she understands that you still have troubles even though she might not pay them much thought. Put your thoughts on paper for her to read. Make sure she realizes that her actions and attitude are more likely to be turning you off than the implants. Best wishes to you, sir. I think it's alright to talk to her even if it's probably going to be futile. If she refuses to admit the problem or consider obtaining help, she'll most likely lose him. She'll probably explain it away by claiming that she's happier on her own and that he's just jealous and insecure about her newfound success. However, it might still be worth a try. We now have the first update. First of all, I would want to express my gratitude to everyone who left insightful and consoling comments on the post. I still didn't know what to do. I didn't want to startle her because, in her eyes, my concerns and frustrations might not have been justified, unless she initiated something. I felt that talking about the past now, after all this time, would be pointless. I think what I didn't know at the time is that she brought up the fact that I had quickly become rather harsh and aloof from her, that I was no longer initiating intimacy, and that I was completely unresponsive to any advances. I was beginning to have serious misgivings about the relationship and told her up front that I thought she had completely changed in attitude. She got quite agitated and asked me why I hadn't mentioned anything. She called me foolish or envious when I told her that I had made multiple attempts, dismissing my allegations out of hand. Whether I asked whether I had ever been envious or paranoid in our relationship, she was compelled to admit that she had never felt those emotions. Even when she admitted this, she said that it was inaccurate and that she continued to believe her personality was the same, even if she was unaware of the reason for my mistake. She apologized profusely for calling me envious, but she was right. It was weird because I felt like everything had suddenly turned against me. I was shocked, believing that she was once more undervaluing my viewpoint. She said she didn't know what to say. Talking to her felt like talking to a wall, and I was kind of mute. So we decided to leave it at that for the evening. She tried to initiate again that evening, though, and when I said no, I kind of shouted at her. It seems like that broke her when I said something like, "Wow, you didn't hear a freaking word I said tonight, did you?" I was truly astounded. She became really aggressive and nasty, which was something I had never seen in her before. She didn't even slow down as she threw the pillows and bedding, screamed, and kicked her way through a broken light. She then started pushing me while yelling at me to leave and declaring that she didn't want to see me ever again. She persisted in her aggressive behavior despite my first resistance, so I gave up and quickly grabbed my wallet and keys before running outside in just my underwear and socks to get into my car. I could still hear her slamming doors outside our house from the comfort of my van. Her place of residence. I drove around all night, thinking. I was shaky. Honestly, I was terrified. I felt angry. I think that stunned me. I didn't have my phone, so I couldn't call my parents or a friend to go over, and I wasn't interested in going there in the middle of the night anyhow. I spent the entire night driving instead of sleeping. I drove and got coffee and breakfast at a drive-thru after waiting for her to depart for work, which was around 8 in the morning. Her car was still at the home. When I came back an hour later, she had finally left. By now, I'm feeling really comfortable. As I enter the living room to retrieve some of my possessions, it is utterly disorganized. There was dirt all over the place as the coffee table fell, chairs were tossed over, and a plant was ripped out of its pot. As you can see, she tried, albeit unsuccessfully, to clean it up. I found everything I owned, including my phone with a broken screen, in the middle of the hallway as I went to our bedroom, where our clothes and phone were kept. Thankfully, my car was still functional, so I packed up a lot of my possessions and piled them into it throughout the next 4 to 5 hours after calling in to work. I also went to a friend's house and gave him a call. He invited me to remain with him till I made up my mind. Later that day, I texted her suggesting that we have a conversation. She responded that there was nothing to talk about and that she thought it would be best if I searched for somewhere else to stay for the time being. When I told her that I had done so before and was staying with my friend, she became utterly silent. I texted her multiple times in response, but she never responded. About a week after everything had happened, she just texted me, saying, "I need to figure out a time to come and pick up the rest of my things." When I asked if she would be around so we could talk, she said she had nothing to say and that I should come retrieve the rest of my items when she's not around. She didn't answer the phone when I tried to reach her. She responded positively when I texted her to ask if she was done with us. I thought I was clear about that, and maybe she was too. I thought since it was just one episode, we would at least talk. Later that week, I texted someone to let them know that I had left my keys on the counter before heading to fetch the rest of my belongings. She announced that she was going to change the locks regardless. I've known this woman for almost 3 years, but I don't know anything about her background. She always spoke clearly and was rarely antagonistic. Though she frequently pouted or acted passive-aggressively, this appeared to be a full-blown tantrum. She was furious, like a ferocious beast or something. She offered no excuses, only cold, calculated in a manner she had never been before. A few weeks later, when I moved into my own apartment, I found out she was seeing someone else. I don't know if she developed feelings for him during our time together. I wouldn't be surprised by that. Sometime in the last year, she lost respect for me, and looking back, there were definitely signs before the surgery, possibly even a desire to have the procedure done. I'm not certain. It all looks to have blended together. It's possible that I've been living in denial for a while, maybe I'm just telling myself that now to feel better. Weeks have passed since I last heard from her, and I haven't attempted to contact her. Her phone did go missing in the middle of the night about a week ago, but I didn't bother to contact her back to see what she needed. Rather, there was no text message. I'm not prepared to talk to her once more. I'm not sure if I will be, or when. The final weeks I had with her and the days after the big blow-up were the hardest days of my life. I've never felt more disregarded or worthless as I do now that she used to be the most reliable person in the world. I'm sorry I didn't have a more positive update, but a few people had asked. I should have uploaded it sooner, but it took me some time to feel comfortable talking about what had happened. I get angry thinking about it even now. Putting everything down on paper seems like a good idea, but to be honest, I'm really anxious and unhappy right now. I still have a lot going for me, fortunately, and I have the rest of my life to live. I feel like I've become more cynical than I was before, which is awful. I'm hoping this passes. I believe the reason she snapped at you was because she had been battling some personal issues for some time, which is why she wanted the breast augmentation. After the surgery, which had proved to be a tremendous success, she felt even more attractive. She seems to have gotten a lot of the attention she was hoping for, based on your post, but not from you. When you told her all of this and that you didn't think the surgery results looked good, that her personality had changed and she looked different, her self-esteem fell to an unparalleled depth. This was an astonishing realization to her. The procedure had not made her any more appealing. All her concerns returned and were more strong, so she snapped at you to deal with her own suffering. In essence, people who are injured are hurt. If my update wasn't more positive, I apologize. I have to admit, having read your previous piece, I'm rather happy with the result. To be completely honest, I assumed that the lady you fell in love with had already broken free and was no longer the one you fell in love with when you inquired in your previous essay whether she was still inside somewhere. I apologize that things turned out the way they did, but in my opinion, learning now will be far more beneficial than learning the hard way when you're stuck in a bad marriage 10 years down the road. It's okay to be pessimistic, you still have the rest of your life ahead of you. It's not as false as you may think. Even those of us who post comments do so for a number of reasons, such wanting to get attention from other users, getting affirmation from others, or simply attempting to deepen our relationships with the individuals we read stories to and share them with. Everyone has their own reasons for acting in certain ways. All you have to do is determine if that's okay with you. Things will improve. You've dodged an obviously irrational bullet here. I don't know if she developed feelings for him during our time together. I don't think anyone should be surprised by this either. She will receive a lot of attention from guys who are only thinking about her children. When she becomes tired of being taken advantage of and yearns for something genuinely fulfilling, she'll be aggravated that there are no good men around to offer her another chance. The most recent update is now accessible. Though I doubt many would be interested, I have added an update based on several private requests for those who might be. Now, my ex and I are pals. She's really changed after starting therapy, becoming more like the girl I thought I knew. After her mother passed away, I tried to talk to her about it, and she said that she understood. There were other issues in our relationship that I was unaware of and that, to be honest, I had not tried to address. She agreed that occasionally my cool-headedness can come out as judging or callous. I always tried to tell her how lovely I thought she was, so it astonished me when she assumed for a while that I no longer found her appealing. But I suppose there were moments when my words and deeds didn't match, and I've talked about this in therapy. She was able to recognize a lot of what she was going through with the help of her therapist, which was nice because she basically told me that she was sorry for reading too much into the way I am and turning it into a negative instead of just the way I am and not at all how she or I felt about her, and I believed her. I ought to have shown more enthusiasm or shown my appreciation to each person by giving them personalized attention. I apologized for not being a more involved partner overall and for not making her feel as amazing as I believe she is. She also apologized for what she had done after her mother died. She even admitted that she was trying to make me jealous and that she had temporarily lost her mind when that didn't work. She went on to say that even though she thought she had lost me before her mother died, we never talked about it, which is why, after her mother died, she started acting out and got so desperate and out of control. Her candor is really appreciated. I thought I was losing my mind. But in the end, neither of us is interested in rekindling our relationship. She had brought it up casually as something for the future, but when I kind of stopped talking, she asked if it was anything I was excited about. I had to admit, it wasn't. I still love the person I fell in love with, even though she is no longer among us. I can't see her the same way, even with everything she says, and to be honest, I don't love the person she's become. It's hard to forget about her previous actions, much less forgive it. She agreed with what I had said. How pleasant it is. Despite our love, we both feel that in order to mature as people and find our true selves, we need some time apart. Now at least we can be friends. All of this led me to think that my best friend had permanently moved on. I thought I was losing her. However, my closest buddy came back to me. Even if we're not as close as we once were, it's almost better since I really missed our friendship before things fell apart. Either way, all is okay, but there isn't any animosity or hate. My therapist points out that even though I'm really sorry for what I did to her, it wasn't intentional. At the end of the day, you were just you, and other people can decide whether or not to accept that. He's really helped me out. Warm regards. Sincerely, it appears like she still lays a lot of blame on you. She went utterly crazy and trashed the house and all of your goods once you arrived to retrieve your stuff. She changed the locks and began seeing someone else. You need a lot more therapy if you think that woman should be in your life, even just as a friend. Discuss about someone you try not to become too close to. I agree. If my understanding is right, She expressed her regret to him for misinterpreting him and seeing his positive traits negatively. Absurd. Because she won't face her own lunacy and phobias, you will soon see that she is still holding you far more responsible than you deserve for the relationship's breakdown. She acknowledges her own ignorance and erratic behavior, but she places the blame for the relationship's miscommunications entirely on you. The fault for the gray areas has been placed on you. You should be excused for misinterpreting her lack of passion for your persona. What on earth is that about? Just since you are who you are and you accept her decision that you don't like her, why should you ask for forgiveness? Her failure to speak with you, her description of the attitude and intention she believed would best suit your ideas and conduct, and the way she treated you as though her assumptions were true were ultimately the transgressions she did on a regular basis. She just kept letting her concerns do the talking for you, becoming an ostentatious flirt to make her point seem valid. This friendship won't endure. You've already lost your friend when she changed, and she will continue to hold you responsible for her errors. It's likely that you expected your friend to reach out to you again because you think she can still take the blame for her problems, even in treatment, even though it's clear that she can't.